However, little do they know that later their money will be taken away by their pimp. We found that 25% of their earnings was taken away by their pimp, so it didn't really help. And another economic struggle was that they have to decide to use a condom or not. We found that women that decide to use a condom will have less earnings than the women that didn't. For the health struggles, we found that many women, as we mentioned, are mentally and physically abused. Many of them were mentally abused at a really young age, plus customers and pimps treat them like if they were worth nothing, which leaves them with emotional scars. And then they're also being physically abused by their pimp and customers, but many prostitutes can't leave their pimp because they're threatened that if they try to leave, they will be killed. Another health struggle is that many of them face drug and alcohol addictions. We found that many of them have to deal with sexually transmitted disease like HIV, and then like we mentioned before, like it relates that they are very vulnerable to these diseases because they have to decide to whether use a condom or not because of the economic hardships like we mentioned. And also we found that there are no clinics for them because they can't go to a clinic because they are embarrassed of themselves and they're afraid to be judged. For the security issues, we found that many of them lack a home, but they're afraid to speak or to go seek for help because they fear being arrested, as well as how many of them were moms, so they were scared of losing their children. Also, they're afraid to speak to the police because we found a study that says that the police believe that they were getting what they deserved, so they felt like they weren't going to get what they wanted. One of the studies that was the foundation for our study, was a study conducted by Megan C. Glennon. Her study didn't really talk about school as a resident copanism, but it did talk about different things that many prostitutes would use to deal with their everyday life. For example, she found that many of them said that they will go to drug addiction treatment programs, they will seek support from other women, they will go to church, prayers, attending narcotic abuse meetings, listening to positive messages, and school. She mentions, in her study, she mentions a girl by the name of August, that she said that school was a refugee and she avoided her problems and felt secure at school.
So in our study, we decided to call the girl Mariah for safety reasons. She's 22 years old and she lives in Chicago. She attended Chicago public schools and is currently enrolled in a 4-year college. She has school from Monday to Friday and she's currently living with a sibling. She works 4 to 5 days a week, and during that week she has 4 to 5 clients and she makes about $1,000 to $1,300 in a good week. We were able to contact Maria through an attorney, and we came up with questions given to attorney, and attorney would give them to Mariah, and then we would give her about a week or two in order for her to respond, and then the questions would be sent back to us, and if we had any follow-up questions, we would repeat the same process. When we had all the questions finally done and the answers, we analyzed all the quotes and we put them in categories that were early life, current experiences, expectations, issues with money, substances, healthcare, safety, and her experiences in school. The data that we gathered was that Maria was raped at age 9 by her father. Her father also prostituted her with his friends, 3 of his friends, and he would charge $100 per each friend. At age 13, she decided to run away from home, and she met a man, and that man became her pimp. Her pimp would repeatedly rape her, choked her, and hit her, and he would also lock her in her basement. She ended up pregnant at age 13 because she was scary. At age 16, her mother found out about what she was doing by prostituting, and she felt very embarrassed, and her mother said that she had been a disappointment to the family. Her mother, after this, physically and emotionally abused her, and I quote, she said, "She was verbally abused and has slapped me across the face when I didn't say anything. She has kicked me out of the house when she felt I had been out working and constantly said that I was a big disappointment and she couldn't allow me to stay with her anymore. She slapped her and kicked her out of the house." So again, she ended up pregnant at age 19, and her pimp told her that she had to continue working, she couldn't stop. And as a result of this, she miscarried because of abdominal trauma. Maria did not seek any help from the police because she felt she would go unnoticed, and on the review of literature like you guys heard from Cynthia, police doesn't really pay attention to prostitutes. In our analysis section, sex workers use school in order to cope with prostitution, and Maria was introduced to alcohol and drugs when she was 9 years old, and currently she uses Valium and Xanax in order to relieve anxiety and panic attacks which helps her keep sedated whenever she's having sexual intercourse with a man. School serves a purpose to create an alternative identity for her. In the study that she mentioned for Glennon, he explains that school is a place that prostitutes use in order to cope with daily struggles. In our study, we found out that Maria uses school to be able to cope with her life. She says that school distracts her from daily life and helps her escape reality and helps her feel more humanized. And she feels that she's a different person in school because she finally feels accepted. And Maria uses the resources that are offered in school in order to have emotional health. She has a range of resources from social workers, attorneys, clinical therapists, and rape advocacy programs. She also uses her 20 free therapy sessions that are offered in the college, and she attends advocacy network that deals with sexual assault. And she says that without school, she wouldn't have been able to receive any of this help. And she also feels that since she's receiving all this help, she feels emotionally empowered. She also feels that school provides her, it's a form of self-reflection. She's currently majoring in psychology and minoring in women's studies, and she majored in psychology because she says that the classes that are offered to her is like a way of counseling for her. School also has provided sex workers to remain resilient and cope with the violence they receive at such an early age. Mariah says that she was sexually, verbally, and emotionally abused and raped by her father when she was 9. And school is a place where she feels more safe. School is also a place that helps her maintain away from her pimp. So she usually goes to school and uses makeup to cover up the marks. And she likes to repent most of the time, saying that it's mandatory that she has to stay in order for her not to go back and have to work again. Mariah is usually exposed to significant health risks, and because of this, she has birth control pills, and she always has condoms on her. And she also is provided with a health clinic in the college. Sex workers. The only reason why they're right now prostituting is because they think that that's the only way for them to have enough money. And like we said before, Mariah makes approximately $1,000 to $1,300 in a week, but most of these earnings are not for her because her pimp has to take half of them away. And with the money that's left over, she's able to pay tuition and books. And school is such a big part of her life that she negotiates with her pimp to be able to stay longer hours at school. She says that, it's mandatory, I have to stay, and she will let him know, I would work extra hours, but just let me stay to school and let me be here for a little longer. And she currently, he takes around 7% of the next week's earnings, so he will let her know you can stay at school, but I'm going to take this much money away from you. But she doesn't care as long as she's able to stay. She says, our deal currently, and whenever I can go to work, when I have been expected to, is to give him 70% of next week's earnings. And if she would make that deal with him, if it's staying in school longer times, even if that decreases her earnings.
To further improve our project, we would like to get more people because the project was a life story, so it was only based on one person. And then also we would like to find many other ways that help women face their struggles, because as we mentioned in the study, it's not only school that helps them.
I have a couple of questions, actually. First off, it was really very interesting presentation. My first question is just, do you have any information on how, is it Mariah or Maria?
Oh, it's Mariah.
Okay. How she initially got involved, how she came to attend school, kind of what that process was like. And then I was also wondering about if you talked at all about her future plans or how she thinks about the future in relationships. It sounds like she still has a lot of external control from her pimp or whoever is sort of managing her sex work.
Well, in the questions we had, we did ask her what she planned to do in the future, and one of her answers was that this got really hard. She said that she's getting old, so at one point her pimp's gonna let her go, and she said that this does sound shocking and hard, but she's gonna get old and her pimp is not gonna need her anymore. She's gonna go with younger girls. So she says that's the only way that she's going to have out of prostitution.
And she does say that she wants to stay in school. Her future plans are to stay in school and to finish what she started.
So as you guys hopefully continue to do this kind of research through school right now and in the future, because you're doing a really good job and really telling challenging, of course, stories. Those of us who've been doing it too understand there's a lot of emotional exhaustion that can come from doing ethnography, particularly like really hard political stuff and people who have very marginalized experiences. So you guys weren't meeting with her in person, right? You've never met her in person, it's all been through text, but even still, like even just sitting here for 10 minutes and hearing about this, creates, maybe triggers different traumas that maybe we've all experienced in certain ways, but also just having to think about this and write about it and read her responses. How are you managing that? And how do you, what tips maybe have you already come up with for yourself? Or what do you think this does for you in terms of thinking about future work that you might want to do, especially as you're trying to get more participants?
Well, personally, I know that, like you mentioned, it was really hard. Like to read her answers was like, it was a really big shock for us. But before we conducted the study, we were warned by our teacher that we were gonna find pretty hard stuff.
Yeah.
And I think, like, personally, I guess we would prepare ourselves because we see like what's going on, but after we would go through like, because the questions were based like from the beginning to the end, and I think we were mentally preparing ourselves to be like, this is harsh, but like to see a woman that's like actually getting all that together and be like, I can get through it, it makes us like think like there's other people that can do it too, and it makes us like, they have that strength to do it.
I was wondering, so we have a good idea about her kind of trying to balance these two different spheres of her life. You said that she lived with her sibling. Does her family know about what she's?
Yeah, her family knows now, but at the beginning, her mother didn't accept it at all. She lives with a sibling, and sometimes when she's not able to pay the rent, she has to sleep in the house. I mean, in the car. Sorry. So yeah, I guess the sibling's not that supportive, but he still offers her a place to stay. And I believe the sibling doesn't know that the sibling doesn't know that she's prostituting.
The mother has an idea, but it's like she doesn't want to admit it.
And also just how cool is it that for her and the Latino mother's story, education becomes the top priority. And so even if she's going to take adopting pay or whatever, she's unwilling to move on that. So
did the pimp try to get her to quit school?
He did multiple times. He would say that he would try to put her out of school, and she would say, "Oh, I have to stay. Please let me stay." And at the end, she said that he would just agree with it, be like, "Okay, you can stay, but you have to work. That you cannot skip work because of school."
That was the negotiation between them two. Like, he would allow her to stay in school, but she would have to